So welcome everybody to the second hour of Mindshifters Radio, and today is Thursday, June the 23rd, 2022. And our call-in number is 563-999-3581 and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us. We'd love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. We'll give Michael a moment to get dialed in, and I'll invite you to go to the website. Susan, thank you for catching that one glitch yesterday. Anytime anybody sees anything on the website that's not working, a link that doesn't go anywhere or whatever, please drop me a line and let me know. The website's so large that, one little glitch, I can overlook it a lot. And so let me know if you find something, and I will do my best to correct it. So I appreciate you letting me know about that. Our website is White, again, WHYAGAIN.org, and there's just lots of information out there. And so we invite you to go out there and just meander around, click on things, and just let us know what you think. And today is going to be a super busy day because right after the radio show, we go till 2 o'clock, and then at 2:05, Michael has an interview with Tim Kellis and the Marriage Group 30, the Global Book Club. So one thing right after the other here today. It's going to be a full, energetic day for him. So welcome, Michael.
Especially after this morning, the neighbor contacted me who had collected some leaves and had time and wanted to help me get them together so that we could put them in our compost pile. So I went out this morning and chopped up with a vacuum chopper about 300 pounds of leaves and hauled them across the road. So it's been a good workout. Send energy, if you would, to my muscles that are, talking to me more than they usually do. And yeah, we're going to have a fun day today. We've got lots on the schedule. So, and we're delighted to be sharing the space with you to bring these principles forward on as many levels, as many aspects of forgiveness as we can possibly do. So delighted that you're here. And just to check with you, sweetie, is there anybody on the phone queue with a hand up? Anything happening in the chat room before I start on a topic?
No, it's all quiet.
Okay. Well, I want to take a little different perspective on the power person dynamic that we've talked about so much over the years. And this comes out of our codependence to interdependence work. And just start off by laying out that power person dynamic. So if you happen to be new to the show, that will make it, what I'm going to share will make sense for you. And then take a look at some just ideas about what it means, what we can do about it. So the power person dynamic is something we identify in the work we do on codependence to interdependence. And we define a power person by 3 factors. We offer that in that workshop that a power person dynamic is instilled in someone's mind when these 3 things happen. And the someone is usually a child in relationship with a parent, although not always. I've worked with elderly people who experienced a situation where they bought in and had a power person dynamic, kind of accidentally slipped past them into their minds and realized it was running their lives. So the 3 things that happen, how we define a power person. 1, power person is someone who had more power over your life at some point than you did. It may have just been one moment, but if they had the power and you didn't, that would be one factor. Now, that alone doesn't mean a whole lot. But the second thing is, if they're not functioning, if that person who has that power is not functioning as a human being, that is not functioning as conscious, active, present love. And then the third factor is that being the object of that circumstance or situation, it is perceived, the situation is perceived as survival. So when those 3 things happen, my offering is that, when you recognize that we are not physical beings, but that we are energetic beings, our energy fields open. And in that open space, again, it's usually a child. The child becomes like a sponge, energetically, and literally just sucks in every energy of the environment, every physical energy, every mental, every emotional, every voice tone, every energy in the environment is just taken in and installed within the mind, within the energy field. Now, once that's installed in the mind, my offering is that the rest of one's life will be limited to one of three behaviors. And which behavior is active and driving perception, which guides our behavior, is determined by the level of stress that we're under. So once a power person dynamic is instilled in a mind, when there is no stress, that person will do whatever they did to get along with their power person. So in the future, 10, 20, 30 years from now, there's no little or no stress going on. And, let's imagine this person is Mr. or Ms. Nice Guy with their power person. No stress. So if they're running through life and there's little or no stress, maybe they're the life of the party, they're the fun person, they're Mr. or Miss Nice Guy. And then stress begins to build. And I just invite you to look at your own life and see if and how this applies to you. Once that stress starts to build, that person will shift out of being Mr. or Ms. Nice Guy, and they'll do, the mind, the automatic decision system of the mind will prompt them to do whatever it is that they did to resist and survive with their power person. So that'd be level 2 when stress starts to build. And then when they become ultra stressed, and this could be, something that happened to a child of 5, and it's maybe this person's now, 50 years later, 45 years later, and this power person dynamic is still running them. And so the third level of behavior is when one becomes ultra stressed. They will do what their power person did to them that they hated the most. And my offering is that's what runs the world. And since it's what runs the world keeps replicating the same dynamics over and over and over again. You heard it said that those who refuse to study history are condemned to repeat it. And so this power person dynamic taking over in the mind, literally, in that moment of thinking this was survival, this situation is survival, and here's the person with the power, and love is not their state of mind. The energy absorbed, by definition, is energy that is of a disintegrative nature relative to the true nature of that child. We've asked everybody over and over again, go back to the moment where you held a newborn child, tap into the essence of the newborn, and virtually everyone says the essence of the newborn is love. Then we ask people to tap out and just check in. Is the newborn loving you? No, the newborn is not loving you. The newborn is love. So we're offering, that's a way to define who we are as human beings. And we recognize that that is our nature, becomes installed in the mind, and is controlled by the levels of stress that one is under, then it becomes difficult to break through and present one's true nature. And the energy of that power person dynamic is quite literally a disease. And we're talking about a disease on every level, on the physical, mental, and emotional level. So it would seem to behoove oneself to make an agreement with one's environment, that is, everybody in the environment. Gee, if you see me expressing my power person dynamic, would you let me know? Because here's what happens. I mean, I've been doing this work for 50 years. I've looked and searched everywhere, and I've never heard anything that even resembles the power person dynamic in this kind of detail. As far as I know, until this work came along, it has been an unknown. I mean, you can go back to the scriptures, and the scriptures say, look to the lives of the fathers, and ours are but a shadow of theirs upon the earth. And that's pretty powerful to recognize that. But that doesn't define how this powered person dynamic is put in, what it takes to put it in, and what it means when it's there, aside from, well, it's going to run your life. Look to the lives of the fathers. For ours is but a shadow. And there is generally a generational component to this power person dynamic. But relative to this integrated energy system that we call a body-mind unit, remember we've talked about Albert Einstein, the starting point of the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. And Einstein says, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy whose vibrations have been so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. So Einstein's telling us a world of material substance does not exist. We live in a world of energy. Yes, the mind makes it look like matter. We make pictures to make things look solid, but there's nothing solid about any of it. We know scientifically if we could alter the rate of vibration in which our brain sees the world, we would see this whirring mass of electrons, protons, neutrons, and light energy. We wouldn't see a world of bodies. So relative to one's own integrated energy system, there are two qualities of energy. What builds it up? What tears it down? Where tear down energy is stored in the structure, that by definition is a disease. And break that word down, dis-ease. The child who thinks this is survival with the raging parent or the sulking parent or the screaming parent or the traumatized parent or the depressed parent, the child whose field opens and just takes all that energy in the future is going to have their lives run by that energy. And without the brain cells to know what's happening, they'll go, well, I guess that's just the way I am, I get under stress, and what I do is I rage and scream at people, and I lash out at them. That's just the way I am. Nothing I can do about it, man. It's just, it just comes up, and I have no control. Well, go back and take a look. How did it feel when your power person lashed out and raged and screamed at you? It was hell. And you can have choice over that if you have the brain cells to understand how it was instilled, how it was installed, and how to clean it up. So what this work is about is giving people the tools with which to clean up that dynamic, which for most of us has been going on for many generations. And so these energetic dynamics that are absorbed in those moments of power person interaction are dis-ease energy that contain every energy absorbed from the power person from one experience with them, or perhaps 1,000 experiences, 1,000 interactions. And again, in many cases, the interaction between this generation of power person and this child simply replicates because the person in the intervening generation had no idea what was running them. They just knew that under stress, they did what their power person did to them. And my offering would be what happens in that when we go into a state of unconsciousness, in that state of unconsciousness, whatever's there just tends to take over and run the system. And what we're saying is there is no need for any behavior to run the system. If you realize who you are as a human being, if you realize that you are love, it would seem to make sense that the only energies inside or outside of yourself that you respond to are those energies based in active present love. That would seem to make sense. And so to address the power person dynamic, if it's playing out unconsciously, to become aware of it, because becoming aware of it means you're becoming aware of a dis-ease energy that's running your structure and perhaps has been running your family system for many generations. And in that moment of high stress, the child who perhaps has become the adult in high stress and doesn't know what to do. High stress means I've got to do something to change or to achieve something in my environment. And so in that case, I've got to do something to change or achieve something in my environment, and I don't know what to do. What do? I unconsciously look into my unconscious and look for, well, who was God and what did God do to win? Well, in that unconscious state, God is going to be the power person. Power person won. I mean, it was hellish. It was horrendous. The power person won. But if you do hellish and horrendous to somebody else, and it doesn't matter what the hellish and horrendous is. It might be just something as simple as criticizing. It might be something as extreme as raging. It might be something as ultra extreme as physical, emotional, and mental abuse. But what happens is, in that state of unconsciousness, one looks back into the unconscious. And I'm not suggesting this is a conscious process. I'm not suggesting it's something people are aware of, but we can start to become aware of it and start to clean it up. So when I become aware of it, instead of just looking into the unconscious and, in essence, asking the question, well, what did God, my power person, again, usually a parent, do in order to win when it was a high-stress situation with me? The automatic decision system will pull that the behavior out of the unconscious, and bang, that's what's going to run the show. And that means that the dis-ease energy of the generations is simply going to replicate itself one more time. Because that's all this carbon-based memory system can do, is replicate whatever's in it. But when we wake up to who we are and we know how to open the veil of the temple, which is what forgiveness does, we can access those dynamics. And with a little support from our friends, when we're in that power person dynamic and we're unaware of it, we're unaware that we're trapped in a dis-ease condition, and the dis-ease condition spews out of our mouths at someone else, which means, now they may not be home for delivery. They may just, pass on it. But what it does mean is, if it spews out of my mouth, it went through my tissue structure first, and I'm the one who's going to get to suffer from it. There's an interesting line in the Course of Miracles that says, you don't really recognize what you're doing to yourself. You're not even afraid of your own fear. Person who does a behavior that's based in a dis-ease energy is replicating that dis-ease energy throughout their physiology before they ever pass it on to someone else. Desirable to understand and to see. Now, if your power person got caught at what they were doing and went into a rage, then probably if somebody points out your power person dynamic to you, you'll go into a rage at them. It'll, again, it's the replicant mind. But to start to work through those dynamics, to start to let loose of the discomfort, the thought disorders that create pain, physical, mental, emotional, depression, anxiety, to take charge of those thought disorders. And then, this tool, we have a whole series of tools, but the main tool in that situation would be to begin to use the forgiveness process. A la first century Aramaic forgiveness, not a la Greek. I'm going to let you off the hook for what's happening in me. So recognizing that if I'm playing out a power person dynamic and I step into a worksheet, I literally begin to apply first century Aramaic forgiveness, and I look at what it is that's creating my ultra-stressed condition. Look all over the world. I have looked. You won't find anybody. Go talk to the stress experts. I haven't found one that can tell me. You'll find it in this work, but you won't find it anywhere else. At least if you do find it somewhere else, please let me know. How are these ultra-stress conditions created? How do we create stress? Well, you notice that you never play out a power person dynamic with someone unless they're violating a goal that you hold for them. And that goal is the key to the forgiveness process, and it's also the key to the power person dynamic, because every time you set a goal, you create a stress. One of the key gifts of engaging in the reality management worksheet process, the forgiveness process from the Aramaic, is you keep your stress down because you're removing stressors. You know, people talk about how, oh, that was a stressful situation. There's no such thing as a stressful situation. It doesn't exist. What makes the situation stressful is I have goals for this situation, and my goal isn't being fulfilled. It isn't being carried forward. There's where the stress comes from. So I'm always in charge of the level of stress I'm under. And if I engage in the forgiveness process on a regular basis, you know, it's one of the reasons why when you do that, Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop, which, by the way, there's a brand new version of it, up until last week or 2 weeks ago, if somebody wanted a copy of that workshop, it was available to buy on a CD or a DVD or a streaming service. And for the first time, we just did a new 3-hour, 2 hours and 54 minutes, I think it is, to be exact, Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. Go to the events page on our website. It's there free. And you'll see that the goal is intimately connected with the forgiveness process, because goals are what create stress. And when we go from, low stress to stress starts to build to ultra stress, it is not because of the circumstances that are happening in our worlds. It's because of the goals that we hold in our minds. And I always have charge of the goals that are active and driving my perception, driving my behavior. And as I start to literally eradicate the underlying patterns through forgiveness, eradicate the underlying patterns of the power person, I can delete that totally and completely from my bloodline. What a gift to give whoever started that behavior off. And maybe it was dad or mom, or maybe it was great dad or mom. Whoever it was, if I do the work, it opens the energy field for them and everybody between them and me in the bloodline. Space for everybody going forward to be freed of that dynamic. Stress is caused when you set a goal. Stress is not caused by situations. If you become ultra stressed and you start doing behaviors that are made up of dis-ease energies and create dis-eases in your physiology, you've got a serious problem. And my offering is this power person dynamic is literally, look at the insanity going on in our world. It's literally the dynamic that runs the world. It runs the business world. It runs the world of government. It runs the world of finance. It runs the world of religion. Because every individual who is not aware that there was a power person dynamic installed in their minds when they were perhaps in utero, or perhaps a year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 15, if they're not aware that it's there, they can't change it. And if it's never changed under ultra stress, and just notice, I can't tell you how many people I've heard say, swear, I saw myself, I'm never going to do that again. And they don't ever do it again until the next time they're ultra stressed, and then they do it again. Because they don't know how to go into their own minds and remove that content, how to forgive. Remembering that forgiveness has nothing to do with, I let you off the hook for everything inside of me. Forgiveness is a tool with which I go inside of me and remove my hostility, my fear, my rage, my guilt, my grief, my pain, my trauma, and I make space for functioning as a human being. Space for functioning as conscious, active, present love. So that's what we're here to facilitate in the world. Honored and delighted that you're part of the conversation. And Miss Jeannie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
No, we don't. It is very quiet. We have 34 minutes, so somebody press 1. We've got plenty of time for conversation.
So if you're out there in listener land and you're on one of those stations where we can't see you on our control panel, that means you are not listening on your telephone. And if you have a question for us or a thought, if you dial into the show directly, the call-in number is 563-999-3581. If you dial in on that number, you'll be listening to the show. And then if you push 1, through the magic of technology, a hand will go up on the control panel. Jeannie's sitting in front of her on her computer. Awesome technology. And she'll know that you want to speak to us, and we'll be having a conversation. So if you're out there in listener land, push 1. Let's talk about it. Is there something about this power person dynamic that you need to know more about, you'd like to understand deeper? How does it fit with forgiveness? How can we support you? How can we refine the understanding?
And I did put a link to a page that we have on the website about the power person dynamics. So that's in the notes for the day.
Sweet. Awesome. Cool. So if Jean and I were on the road when we were in your hometown, and I just spent, 22 or 23 minutes talking about this power person dynamic. I was on a platform in your local library or church or university or prison or, town hall, whatever. And I walked down off the stage, finished doing this presentation about the power person, and you were in the audience. What would you come over and ask me? I know that for most people, this dynamic, there's some people who have been around the work for a long time, so they really comprehend it. But for most people, this is kind of a shocking new piece of information. And so if you were there and I walked down off the stage and, I was just hanging around having a cup of tea, you walked over, what would you be saying? Well, Michael, I just have one quick question. And the whole objective of this show is for you to ask your questions so that you can lead us to the next space that we're going to be covering with these tools, with this radio show. So we would love your interaction. We would love your input. And the way you do that is push 1, and let's talk about it. How can we support you? What's on your mind? 563-999-3581.
I'll just add that the power person is not always like mean and forceful, and a lot of times we think, okay, my power person has to be, my mom, because she was the one that always, whipped us and yelled at us and all of this. But it was actually during one of the teachers' intensives that we did, and we were doing the long form, and what I didn't like that form the first couple of times I did it, and then it was like this big aha that my power person was actually my dad. And Dad, you can ask anybody. Dad is one of the gentlest, kindest, sweetest men that I have ever met. But what I found was, he had the perfect reason to go to the farm. He had to take care of the cows and do the hay and do all this stuff. So he would leave usually on Mondays and go to the farm, and he wouldn't come back until Friday or Saturday. And what I realized is that when ultra-stressed, what I wanted to do, and I'll say that is past tense because I've worked through that a lot, but it still creeps up every now and then, but when ultra-stressed, what I want to do is leave. And realizing that that was what Dad did, and it was probably his way of being able to survive and get along with my mom when she would be more vicious. And so the power person is not always somebody that just screams and rants and raves, but they just do a behavior that is not based in love, and it took a while for me to actually see that in my dad.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
And we can have more than, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and when we do it, we call it something different, usually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where we call their behavior abuse, we say, oh, no, I'm just taking care of myself, or whatever. Yeah. But the other point to get is that with this power person dynamic, we can have several different persons who are power persons. Let's say in the arena of finances, it might be one person. In the arena of relationships, it might be another. In the arena of work life, it might be another. In the arena of body image, of self, might be still another person. The way that you can tell in any given circumstance where you're doing a behavior, you say, I really don't want to be doing this. The way you can tell who your power person is whose behavior are you doing? Look back and ask yourself, who did that behavior? And, as Jeannie shared, that's what she started to understand. It was like a whole aha. I remember that one very well, when it was like, oh, it wasn't about Mom. The power person was Dad leaving. So, what thoughts does that bring for you? It's 1:30. We've got a half an hour for conversation, and I would love to continue the conversation. Although I've got 2 interviews to do yet today.
Up.
So, oh, great, good. Thank you, thank you. Hello,
Susan.
dear, hand up.
Yeah, it's 610. It's Susan. Hi.
Well,
hey,
you're
lady.
right on the stuff. Hi, Michael. Thank you. I feel as if that was a personally addressed to me talk. And
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, right. So, and Jeannie, adding on, you just blew my mind. You've told that story about your dad before, more than once, and that's not a criticism because we need to hear stuff. But my dad was a power person. It's just pure dad. He disappeared. He had a job from 6 in the morning to 6 at night, and he did not know what my mom was doing to us. He did not know. Now, I can't imagine he didn't know. But we didn't tell him, so he might not have known. But how could he have not known? Anyway, it's just he didn't want to deal with it. He wanted to keep the peace. But I've never thought of that as not acting lovingly. It's like a camouflage. Because the escaping dad looks so gentle and so innocent. So even to put that person into that category of being a power person, it's a mind blower.
I think what was challenging for me too, when I, first realized that Dad was the power person, is because, and Mom just did, I'm sure, the best that she knew how to do. And when I think back of some of the stressors that she was under, I have a lot more compassion than I used to. But when I was growing up, Mom was the quote-unquote mean parent. Dad was the nice parent. And so for me to then put
With
Dad
4
in
kids.
the category, so for me to put Dad into the category of the power person felt like a betrayal of him. Like I was betraying him,
I understand, totally.
And kids have to have, I think, one safe parent or relative or somebody that they feel, this is the good guy, this is a safe space, or whatever. And it wasn't too long ago when Michael and I were processing that what came up was, I can remember, and I probably wasn't 8, 9 years old, and I remember thinking, if Mom and Dad would divorce, I would go live with Dad and I would take care of him. And look what I'm doing right now. Mom's deceased, but I am taking care of Dad. And it's like, whoa, I manifested that one. It may have been 50 years later, but.
Got to be careful what you ask for.
Yep.
wow, you shouldn't probably ask for anything. Gee, that's amazing. That is quite something. Well,
I have some good news for you, Susan.
what?
Last night, and unfortunately I missed the call, I got a call from Jake. And I called back. And I did try calling him this morning. I didn't see it till this morning. And I assume he was in school or wasn't up yet, but I did leave a message. So hopefully he'll return that call again and we'll get to have a conversation.
Oh, how I would love that.
He didn't leave a message, but I was pleasantly surprised to see the call on my phone that he'd called. So hopefully we'll be able to open a dialogue and he'll recognize there's some support, and chances are that some of the ideas will be a little easier to swallow from me as a third party than coming from Orb.
Oh, that's fantastic. I haven't heard from him today, and usually that's a good sign. But I know my relative, my cousin, whatever he is, who is the head of this program, is on to this now, and I feel as if a great relief about that, and that Jacob has some protection from himself, and that's. And my daughter called me this morning, and it's as if the whole thing had blown over. We did talk a little about Jake. She's unblocked him. She said he apologized in a very roundabout way, not the great apology that anybody would really hope for. But, of course, that's no guarantee because her husband did that all the time. It's a start. It's a good start. So thank you for doing that. Well, and it may be
a power person dynamic for him. For Jake, and that's great that he can express his power person dynamic, and here you are, and here I am, and we can feed it back to him and support him in taking it to the next level. I could easily hear
not reacting, not dishing it right back out to him.
Yeah. I could easily hear him having a conversation with you where you say, well, I heard you apologize to your mom, and that was kind of a roundabout apology, and did you know that your dad used to do that? And and we might want to work on making it a little more sincere, a little more direct, and help him to build the brain cells. I mean, how does a kid who came up under that kind of stress make it all up for themselves? It's not easy.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well,
but I was very delightful to get that call back from him.
Oh, I think it's amazing. I'm going to play dumb, though. Should I play dumb? I really need step-by-step instructions on how to navigate this. He does not know, for instance, that I called his director. He had asked me not to. A week ago, I said, should I call Dev? And he said, please don't. And I said, okay. Well, a week later, I thought, I'm going to call him, and I'm not going to tell you. And I don't think that's so good. But
I think as long as you're not engaging in a direct lie, I think as an adult that he's been turning to for some support, for you to make some decisions that might not be in harmony with his, I think is a reasonable thing, and I think is defensible. And it was done in integrity, and I think it's just awesome that it turns out that here he is in this program, and the fellow who's running the program, number one, has been in Al-Anon, and two, is a relative who's got an interest, beyond just, here's another kid at school. I think that's just an awesome, wonderful set of coincidences, and it's reasonable for you as the adult in this circumstance to make some choices that perhaps, the child in the circumstance, and he is acting very much as a child, does not agree with, and that's okay. I don't have to follow the direction of everyone else in that circumstance. So,
well, I've been thinking about how I've been operating around Jacob when he's in his rage, and a couple of years ago, I would have said I'm walking on eggshells, but it's a little different because it's more informed. That's the only difference. I'm still very careful, the way an eggshell walker would be careful. But the eggshell walker is afraid and mincing around, trying to find the narrow passageways in the maze of this mental illness. But
right.
the stuff you've been telling me leaves me feeling as if I'm standing on solid ground. I'm not walking much because I have to be still, but I'm really trying to find my way to him when he is not being loving, to remain loving. And usually that's just been aggravating to him. You know, he'll just fight back. And
well,
so
when love is present, you know, that underlying unconscious energy is going to start to move. It does tend to create a healing crisis. So, you know, that's part of the process.
Oh boy, I'm just looking forward to some kind of motion breakthrough somewhere, and that's a goal.
I'm with you. Yeah. Well, and it's reasonable to have goals. It's reasonable to have goals. They're good things to have. The time when you want to be canceling them is when you recognize that if you put it in your mind, then your mind comes up with something that blocks or interferes with the flow of love through your structure. And that's when the goal is canceled. Otherwise, they're wonderful things to have. It's interesting that sometimes people will interpret the whole conversation about goals and canceling goals. Oh, does that mean I'm not supposed to have any goals, though? Then? No, not at all. I have all the goals you want. Just recognize that if you load one in your mind and you go into some form of hostility or fear, it's your healing opportunity. Like, you know, where in the culture have we ever been told anything that even resembles such a thing?
Yeah. When you say that the whole world is operating out of power person dynamics, I really think you're onto it.
The whole world.
That's how it feels.
I don't care whether you're looking at Putin. I can tell you, you know, we can look at the behavior of anyone when they're ultra stressed, and we can tell that person exactly what their power person did to them. It's as straightforward as night follows day. You know, day follows night. If you watch somebody ultra stressed and they, you know, twitch their hand on their head and their shoulder shakes and their foot taps and they rage, you can say to them, gee, how did it feel when, you know, your foot tapped and your shoulders and you rage? How did it feel when your power person did that to you? It's exact. I mean, it's just like... And to me, to have the brain cells to recognize that and catch ourselves in those states and go, so this is my next piece of work.
Yeah.
So here we are doing our next piece of work, all of us.
So I'm just going to, Deanie, back to you. I'm just going to have to think about my dad. Maybe I'll ask you a couple of questions in a while. My dad did the ultimate disappearance. He died he died young. He died at 70. That young, it's an acceptable age. But he was sick starting when he was 60. He got heart disease, angina, and kept pushing himself and just keeled over one day. Didn't want to do the hospital. Didn't want to take the meds. Didn't want to attract attention to himself.
So his life was about hiding out.
Yeah. And being just astounded at his kids. He did love us. And he was amazed. He'd stand in his pockets and say, gee, still, that's so amazing.
I mean, it is. I mean, life, when we can get out of our power person time, when we get out of the crap and just watch life, it's just absolutely phenomenal. You know, it's like, wow, what a what a gift to have one of those and to be able to observe it throughout the world. The good, the bad, and the ugly doesn't matter. Just, to be able to observe it and be part of it is just, to me, is the most amazing blessing.
Yeah. It is exhausting at times, though, Michael. I'm coming out of my depression and fatigue, but it took a few days. It just wasn't a happy time for a while.
Yeah, I hear you. And, when I recognize that that's the energy that's moving through me, and I keep doing the things that keep love moving through me, that's when I can most quickly process through those energetic dynamics.
When you say process through, though, you're not necessarily saying even doing worksheets, are you? You're just breathing through it. You're just resting through it, allowing it to be. Or maybe
all of the above or none of the above. It can be just as simple as breathing and holding to active present love and allowing whatever needs to move to be embraced and moved. Mm-hmm. Rather than even the slightest, tightening of the neck, the closing of the breath, shutting down that flow of energy. It could be nothing more than just a slight raising of the head so that tightness in the neck disappears. And I'm saying that because I'm doing that with my own structure right now and taking that breath and allowing that next layer of energy to come forward. It could be as simple as that. And if I do a whole string of those kinds of things, and remember our definition of processing is the ability to hold love, conscious, active, and present when something less than love comes up. I do a string of 10 times when I've done that sort of physical posture and locked down and held my breath and I breathe through it, and I've done the equivalent of a major piece of work.
I'd love to know more about that. That whole business you just said. Locked down, doing what? I don't think I followed it.
Well, what I was sharing is, as I was observing myself in this conversation with us at this moment, I noticed that as I went to respond to you, I tended to just a very slightly, like maybe an eighth of an inch, to move my head down. And I just realized I was just lightly holding my breath, not a big kind of, but just lightly holding it. And so, having observed that in myself, I just took that breath and raised my head a little bit, and I could feel the shift in energy in my body, like an upward positive shift in energy. And that's what I'm talking about. It could be something as simple as that. And, it might be, digging into the deepest worksheet or the deepest still point breathing session. But it could be something as simple as that.
You became aware of a feeling then and undid the feeling without knowing where the feeling came from?
Exactly.
To start, and then you might go back, okay.
Just allowed physiology to move. Recognized a slight, and it was real subtle, a subtle holding pattern in my own structure, and letting go of that holding pattern. It can be as simple as that.
I think? Uh-oh, what did I say wrong?
Oh, no, you didn't say anything wrong. I just realized it was the energy moving in me in the discussion. But there's another one of those worksheets on it. It's my fault or your fault.
I've told you this.
You're innocent, dear heart. You're innocent.
We all
You've always been innocent.
Tim and I were both asleep. He was having a dream, and I was having a dream. He turned over and whapped me on the back. I said, "Don't hit me, Mom." And he said something, "Mickey, cut it out." He was having a dream about his sister with whom he's had issues. And I get flooded.
You were having the matching dream.
Yeah, our matching bags of garbage. We woke up laughing about it because he actually said, "Tim, what did you say when in that dream? Remember that dream you turned over and hit me, and I said, "Quit hitting me, Mom," and you said, "Mickey, cut it out," or something like that. But I don't know what she was doing here. But we realized we're not alone in that bed. There are many people in the bed.
That's right. Well, that's straight out of the Healing Through Relationships workshop, matching bags of garbage.
Yeah.
And in the awake state, the mind would go the next place of making it up. And, out of the story of what happened with sister, one would tend to make up and project a story about husband, and husband out of, who was hitting him would tend to make up story. And now two realities that are totally coming from the unconscious of each individual, and we each make it look like it's about the other person, and a whole other layer of complexity happens. And when we can start a new pattern of, oh, I've got some pained perception coming up here, I know how to collapse this and breathe and move into love. It's like, whew, can let go of every, sadness, every grief, every rage, every pain, every trauma, every, depression, every anxiety. It can all just be let loose of.
Yeah. What? I'll put mute on.
I had someone show up on my Facebook page this morning mentioning someone who I've worked with for several years and have watched go through many layers of trauma and extreme trauma. And they mentioned how today was their birthday and that they were going to wish themselves, going to be the first ones with this post on Facebook to wish themselves a happy birthday. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. What a nice step. And that inspired me to write to them a few paragraphs, and it feels appropriate to share it. So what I responded to her with was, I support you proclaiming today, or proclaiming it, the year I take care of me, the year I eat well, sleep well, exercise, smile at myself and others, each consistently, persistently do my inner work until all of my behaviors are loving, gentle, and respectful toward myself and others. I make this the year I study what it takes to do all of this and learn deeply and practice the causes of health. If failure to achieve any of these areas presents itself, I make the commitment to learn and work toward the practice of the necessary skills to heal in that area so that I create the best year yet of my eternal life. I then go uphill in that commitment so that each year that follows improves exponentially. And here's the vision.
And you put that up on Facebook? Woo!
I did.
Great.
And then I actually somewhat rewrote the commitment for that particular circumstance. And so then wrote, here's the complete vision for the achievement, and offered to join her in it, and that is my commitment. I promise to trust myself enough to tell myself the truth and be true to me and always engage in just and fair behavior with myself and others. I choose to claim my true nature by keeping the commitment to always be sweetness in my life and in the lives of every person I think about. And remember, that's the Aramaic definition of neighbor.
Yeah.
I will nurture myself and others daily and treat us lovingly, gently, and with respect in my thoughts, words, and actions for eternity. In every interaction, I commit to affection for both myself and others, to look for and acknowledge the highest and best in us as I surrender to love the true nature we share. I will use only voice tones that reflect my deep caring for us both. My connection to love, our source, gratitude for my life and relationship with all others, and our serenity, I will always make more important than any issue. I open my being to embrace myself and others in love. I open my being to be embraced in the love of others. If anything unlike love comes up in me, I will hold myself and us in my heart and listen as I learn to speak, experience, and be responsible, and forgive my own pained realities. I'm here for and with life. I promise to speak only truth as I keep communication open and keep love conscious, active, and present as we heal, celebrate life, and grow together. Happy Eternal Day.
That's quite a birthday card.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Maybe we should go into the birthday card business.
Hey.
B, wouldn't that be nice to walk into a birthday card store and find that to hand to somebody?
Yeah, well, Michael.
Another plate spinning.
What did you say?
I say another plate spinning. We'll put that in the hoppers and see what it will take to create that.
Speaking of plate spinning, I know it's coming to the end of the hour. Did you ever do anything with Elon Musk?
I have not. It's been in the back of my mind, and I did a little more research, and I'm not sure that
it's
there'd be the kind of opening that I originally imagined. I see some things that I just don't know where he's at.
Yeah, I've been seeing him too, and I wondered how you felt about that, because it's a little more complicated.
Yeah, if it were the initial thing that I saw from him, it would have been go forward. But then I'm not sure I was correct in my understanding of it at that point, or that I had a complete enough understanding to feel that it would be appropriate to move forward with that. So it's kind of in the back of my mind.
Yeah. Michael, good luck this afternoon. There's a lot going on.
Yes. Join us for the book club if you have the space, 3:30 Eastern Time. And the link is in the notes today. We'll be joining Yinka in London. They're 8:30 their time. And so we're going to step into the first 3 chapters of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? So anybody wants to join us, Mike, jump on the notes, and we'll look forward to sharing that space with you and appreciate you deeply. Tell Tim I said hello.
Thanks.
All right, blessings. Take care.